Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
Hey everyone, my name's Chloe. I'm a fighter from Brisbane, Australia. I'm currently training here at Bangtao in Thailand. I'm 3-0 as an amateur, but I'm looking to make my pro debut in 2025. I grew up in Brisbane, Australia, but growing up I spent a bit of time in Moresby in Papua New Guinea up until about preschool age, and then I moved back to Brisbane for school. I have a younger sister, an older brother, and obviously my parents who are separated. Growing up, I was always a bit of a tomboy. I was always playing rugby with the boys at school, getting picked up with injuries, riding motorbikes. So I guess when I think about that, it's not really that surprising to me that I ended up in combat sports. But as I got a little bit older, I sort of went the more conventional route. I was studying law and business in university. Got mostly through my degree before I decided to completely leave that life behind and pursue MMA full-time, which was like a really, really drastic life change for me, and sort of I think took a lot of people by surprise. Playing rugby in primary school with the boys, I don't know, I think I'm very much like my mom like that. She was always a bit of a tomboy too, and she told me similar stories about herself growing up in school. But I don't know, I always thought that was more fun than sitting around and doing double dutch or making Scoobies in primary school. You know, I didn't really enjoy sitting around talking with the girls. I'd rather be playing with the boys on the oval. I did get picked up a few times. Like I needed to go get stitches in my head once because like of tackles and that sort of thing. But I don't know, it was always fun. It never really bothered me playing with the guys. I was pretty much doing what everyone else was doing sort of around my age, like, you know, picked a career, was studying something to get me to that career, was working a job, I was working in some of the best law firms in the country, and I just realized that it just wasn't for me. I don't know if it was like, you know, I did it because it was safe or like, you know, the money's good, or it's conventional and, you know, you appease your parents and everyone else's expectations, but like I knew I wasn't happy and I wasn't my best self, and I feel like martial arts was really like the vessel for me to then pursue becoming my best self. I don't actually have any background in any sports. Like I had like a F45 phase for like 2 years probably prior to starting jiu-jitsu when I was 24. But yeah, no real sporting background after like high school. I was age champ in athletics and swimming when I was in primary school. Did pretty well in like basketball up until like grade 10, and then everyone like outgrew me, so that wasn't feasible anymore. But yeah, pretty much like around grade 10, I think also like I started partying with my friends and stuff like that. So sports sort of like took a bit of a backseat, and yeah, then I really didn't do any sort of sports until I started jiu-jitsu when I was 24 years old, and just fell in love with it and became obsessed, and yeah, haven't looked back. I think because, like I said, I was doing something that like didn't give me a sense of purpose. Like I was just doing it, you know, for whatever reason, and I wasn't enjoying it at all. I sort of became like a shell of myself to a degree. Like I was, you know, way too high in certain personal characteristics, like agreeableness, for example. And Jordan Peterson is somebody that I really look to for guidance, and he was giving some advice about how, like, if you're really high in agreeableness, put yourself into a situation that's like the complete opposite of that. And I couldn't think of anything less agreeable than physical conflict with like another person. So I tried jiu-jitsu first, and yeah, I was in the jiu-jitsu gym, you know, 3 times in the first week, and then it was like twice a day the next week, and then like maybe 2 weeks after that I started boxing and then kickboxing, and yeah, I started competing about 3 months in jiu-jitsu competitions, and I had some really good results, and you know, it was kind of like, wow, like maybe I could be kind of good at this. And I got some good, like, positive encouragement from some coaches at the time and other people around me, and it was just obsession. Like, you know, suddenly it was like all I was thinking about was like training, and I was training before work and then on my lunch break, and then straight after work I was going to training, and yeah, it just like consumed me really, and I just loved it. The first MMA gym that I went to was more of a beginner gym. So I think after about 1.5 years of training there, I guess I just wasn't really feeling that challenged anymore, and needed to make a move, and that was when I moved to Team Compton under Stephen Elliott Compton in Brisbane. And I trained there for a little while before I was invited to the pro class, and that was like baptism by fire. I was training with people like Stuart Nickel. He was probably one of my main training partners, who's like, if anyone's ever seen anything of Stuart Nickel, he's a fucking animal. And yeah, it was tough, it was really tough, but I really feel like I learned what I was made of in those classes and in those trials. And I think leading up to my first fight, I couldn't have asked for a better preparation than that, because I remember going into that first fight and I was like, there is no way that my opponent has done what I have done within those walls, with the people that I was training with in those walls. And so yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence, and I knew I was tough enough to weather whatever she threw at me, which is funny because I actually broke my face like 30 seconds into that first fight in the first round, and I couldn't see for the rest of the fight. So, you know, to be able to get through that in my first fight, yeah, I was proud of myself. I think the decision to fight, like take that first fight, was inevitable, because at that point, like I'd been dedicating like the last 3 years, pretty much all of my available time to training, and so, you know, in my mind it was like, I have to do this, you know, and I wanted to do that, because why else was I doing, I mean, not why else, like I guess what got me into fighting in the first place wasn't actually having a fight. It was, you know, what I was talking about before about being a more evolved version of myself. But yeah, by that point I was so keen, and you know, I'd had really good training and I felt confident, and I really wanted to test my skills and find out what I was made of, you know. And I'll never forget my coach Elliot was saying in the lead up to the fight, you know, like there are some people who are fighting for the first time on this card, and you know, we'll find out whether they just like the idea of fighting or whether they really actually love it. And yeah, I remember just straight away after the third round of that first fight, like I knew for sure, like I loved it. And yeah, so that was nice to learn about myself. But yeah, my parents' reactions were like, my dad was there, he came to watch my first fight. He was cage side on a table, and you know, afterwards obviously my face was a little bit busted up, and he was just so cute, like he was just grabbing ice out of the drinks bucket in the middle of the table, and he was just like, you know, put ice on your face. I don't know. I think they support me, they definitely support me, and they're proud of me. But they also think that I'm mental, and they just don't want me to get hurt. That's just, you know, classic parents. My mom, I can send her a highlight reel of me not getting hit, and she'll watch that. But yeah, I don't want to force her to watch it if it makes her feel like upset or like worried or anything like that. I don't want to stress her out. So yeah, she like wishes I would just do wrestling or jiu-jitsu. She didn't really like the punching. But that first year was chaos. Like it was awesome chaos, but it was still chaos. I took that first fight, I started prepping in December, like the start of December, and I remember my coaches saying to me, like, just ease up, like don't go too hard too fast, because you're gonna peak. And these were the things, like obviously, that I didn't know yet about fighting, because it was my first camp. And yeah, I definitely peaked early, and then like I had to re-peak again before my first fight. But that first fight was probably my favorite out of all of them. It was a complete war with Jasmine, and she's tough as shit, and she hits hard, you know, so yeah, I really got tested in that fight, but it was good and it was so much fun. And then I was booked to fight Samantha on Eternal in, I think it was July, in July. But we'd actually double booked that fight, and then the Path to Hex title in Melbourne against Ashlinka. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, but it was down a division. And obviously, like, I haven't cut to 52 as yet, but we double booked on like the premise that if I come out of the fight basically damage free, that we could proceed with that second fight in Melbourne. But we sort of caveated, like, you know, if there's any injuries or something, like, just expect that we're gonna have to pull out. So they were okay with that, and yeah, we took the fight with Samantha. Obviously took a little bit of damage to my leg in that fight, and so I wasn't able to go ahead with the Path to Hex title in Melbourne, unfortunately. But yeah, the second fight with Samantha was just, I don't know, I guess I didn't really I didn't feel that much about that fight. I felt like I was just kind of like on a roll at that point, you know, like I'd fought, you know, not that long ago, and then I booked that fight. And I guess like another thing that I learned was like double booking as an amateur with not that much experience. Like I suppose I maybe wasn't 100% focused on the fight with Samantha. I was sort of half thinking about the Path to Hex title fight as well, which in retrospect might have been a mistake. But yeah, we got through the fight with Samantha, won on unanimous decision, took a bit of damage to my leg, and then I fought Renee in September on Eternal again, but was like actually had quite a few injuries going into that fight. I think you can see on my social media, there's like videos of me in a moon boot on a bike like 5 weeks out from the fight. And I remember like I couldn't really do anything in that camp except grapple off my back, which is like not my style at all. And I couldn't even kickbox. Like I could box like sort of just towards the end, just hands. So yeah, that was really interesting, and I really loved that fight because I was so compromised going into that fight that I had no gas tank, and yeah, I was like extremely relatively unfit. And I remember like between round 1 and 2, like I came out so hard in round 1 because I tried to put her away because I was like, I don't have the tank to go 3 rounds. So didn't put her away, and then like rounds 1 and 2, like in the round break, I was like, my legs were completely jelly and I was just completely gassed, and I was like, shit, you know. But I really found out what I was made of in that fight. I had to like completely rely on my heart, and so yeah, for other reasons, I suppose that kind of is one of my favorite things about that fight was I really had to dig deep to get that win. But yeah, we got the win. It was good. So the end of last year, I came out to Bangtao for the like off season. There's not really that many fights in December or January at home. Just like a bit of a training holiday. Obviously, like I knew who the Hickmans were when I like first started training, and so to be able to come out here and train under them was really exciting and a privilege. And so yeah, we came out for a couple of months and then went back, and I decided that I think I'd like to move here for sort of like a semi-long-term period of time, just to save a bit of money. And you know, like there are a lot of girls here at the gym, really good training partners for me, whereas like I was the only girl in my gym at home. So as much as I love Stewie, you know, I don't need to get bashed by Stewie every day. And so yeah, I love training with Jada and Carolina and Maddie and, you know, all the girls here. So yeah, I guess my year was like a bit of a logistical nightmare because I came here, went home at the end of January, and then I was going to come back and sort of relocate. So there was like a bit of logistics involved in trying to organize that. But then I ended up getting injured in training, and I basically broke my ankle, which had a surgery that I needed to get. which was really like non-negotiable. It was like either that or retire. So got the surgery, and that put me out for about 7 months. And yeah, I guess I was just sitting at home, and I was like injured in a cast, and I was like hanging out to come back. So while I was doing all of that, I was organizing my return to Phuket, and pretty much got doctor's clearance and booked a flight, and now we're here. So yeah, I'm hoping I can get a match up soon. I'm waiting to hear back on a card, but in December, but haven't heard anything yet. So I just keep training in the meantime. My goals, short-term goals for the next year, just getting myself right now back up to speed in terms of like athleticism and strength, just getting my eye back in my training and my sparring. Book a fight soon. I think like I'm in a position now where I could start a camp and fight confidently. Depending on, you know, what the boys say, maybe have a couple more AMIs, which I mean, that's a good thing about being in Phuket, is that there's not that many girls, you know, on the roster in Australia, and so there was a lot of pressure to go pro, because anyone that I was going to fight soon again at amateur, I was going to meet around the corner in the pro ranks anyway. So is there any point, like, does the rule set suit me better? I think it does. Like, I prefer the longer rounds, the elbows for ground and pound. I think that's better for me. But yeah, I get the luxury of having a couple more AMIs here because there are a lot more smaller girls. So maybe have a couple more amateur fights, and then yeah, hopefully make my pro debut in the first sort of quarter or half of next year. I would like to keep fighting on the Australian circuit. Like, I love fighting on Eternal MMA. Yeah, Beatdown Promotions as well is a great show. I really enjoyed fighting there, and you know, I haven't fought on Hex before, but I think I would like to give that a go too. But yeah, I guess, like, you know, that's the luxury of being here, is that it's not too far away. I can have a few more AMIs and then fly home for a pro fight or come back, like whatever. I guess a message for the people that follow me would be don't sleep on me. Like, I know I've been inactive in the last year. It's been a bit of a nightmare, but I'll be back very soon, better than I was before I left, and I really appreciate all of the support that I've received. People following me, yeah, it means everything, and it really means everything to get to where I want to go in the future. We can't do it without those people. So yeah, and to my family, thank you for supporting me in chasing a really fucking crazy dream, and I'm sorry, Mum and Dad. But yeah, I love you guys, and I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you.